right? Well, the idea is that we round up this chapter that is about social interactionism. And in fact, we had started discussing some aspects that had to do with social interactionism, which in fact shows as a movement. Wait a second, I'm going to admit more people there, which shows as a movement an influence from what? From Piaget, right? Now we started talking about Vygotsky, and we will also deal with some ideas, let's say in a way developed by Feuerstein. Now I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the surname well, Feuerstein. Well, what do they agree on? Vygotsky and Feuerstein. Any comments to make? Why are they, let's say, representatives of social interactionism? They coincide in some points. Do you remember? When do we start learning?
They emphasize the social context.
Okay, so they emphasize the social context, and what else? And they believe that how do we learn and when do we start learning? Any ideas there?
When we are born, we start learning when we are born.
That's it, okay. And by, how do we learn?
By touching and feeling, and by the touch, by exploring what you have around you and your body.
Around you, okay. Now the fact is that both of them coincide in this aspect. Now, perhaps Feuerstein gives more, let's say, predominance on the significant adults, especially the teachers, as these mediators for learning, right? Now, in fact, Vygotsky developed a theory that is called the zone, not a theory, but a concept, sorry, that is called the zone of proximal development. What is that? Because remember we mentioned that he has a holistic view towards what? Towards learning. He said that it cannot be broken into pieces, right? And the fact that that language transmits culture, right? Those are concepts developed by Vygotsky. Now, he spoke of the zone of proximal development. What can you say about that? What is that?
Well, I think it's the zone, in some way, where the learning takes place. Is let's say on the limits of the knowledge, the knowledge of the child, but not too far for making it impossible to understand and learn it.
In the zone of proximal development, who are there? Who interplay there?
Adults or people with a better level, or for example, a more competent peer.
Okay, so somebody else is there, right, that in a way is posing a challenge or not. Okay, Yes. Now, sometimes it could be a significant other, that in that case, it would be the teacher, right? Or somebody posing himself or herself as a teacher, or it could even be a peer. Now, sometimes there isn't an exact figure. Remember, we referred to ubiquitous learning? We can think of, let's say, autonomy, right? The learner's autonomy in front of a challenge where there is nobody, let's say, mediating, but is the, let's say, the learner trying to, let's say, excel or learn to do something on his own. That's why, I mean, there is this concept of self-study. And the fact that you approach it on your own without somebody else's help doesn't mean that there isn't a zone of proximal development. Okay? So it's just the presence of a stimuli and motivation. All right? So in fact, we cannot think of the zone of proximal development just thinking about three participants. That could be the context of the task, the significant, let's say, adult or a peer, and the learner. That could be, in a way, altered. And we can conceive that in a different way, too. Now, what is it is that there is always, we always learn something new, and that is in the nature of humankind. And that is one of the positions taken by social interactionists, right? Now, if we think of the zone of proximal development, perhaps in Vygotsky's views, and trying to differentiate that from Feuerstein, is that of more autonomous learning, right? That is not always helped or assisted by somebody else. Whereas, if we think about mediation and Feuerstein's point of view towards mediation, the significant adult or a peer who is, let's say, at a higher level, right? Let's think of a language classroom. In that case, takes more importance rather than in Vygotsky's views, right? Now, there is something that was very interesting about Feuerstein. And what can you tell me about his ideas? Because he developed one concept that goes, let's say, contrary to what the cognitivism was, in a way, supporting. And it has to do with learning. Excuse me, I have to turn something off. Okay, let's see, I'm back. There is something that goes against what cognitivists generally said about learning. Any idea? Yes, that the cognitive structure is modifiable. It can be modified. Modifiability of the structural cognitive, right, skills. That is to say, in the past, or according to cognitivism, we were able to learn in a better way, right, and with ease when we were at a younger age. The critical period, perhaps, does it ring any bell? The fact that other learners, right, find it more difficult to learn a second language or a foreign language? Perhaps you remember that. Well, that is the idea that is defied in a way by this structural cognitive modifiability. All right. In fact, Feuerstein says that if there is motivation and the right mediation measures or steps being taken with the help of somebody else, right? Anybody can learn at any time. And that goes along much with those concepts that were, let's say, originated in humanism. Okay. Now, another concept that was, let's say, important for Feuerstein is that of learning how to learn. That it was important to make learners aware of their own processes towards learning. So that if you know exactly how you learn best, then you can even optimize your own learning, right? And well, then another concept is that of dynamic assessment. What can you tell me about that? Let me check on the chat, just in case somebody is writing. What can you tell me about assessment that is dynamic? Why dynamic? It is a two-way process. What does it mean? That when there is assessment, there is interaction, and not only the learner, right, is the one that is being assessed, but the teacher is also assessing herself or himself, right, towards the way he's making this, let's say, process more effective or not. All right, so it is an assessment that it is a two-way process in which both parties take active action, right, and learn. Okay, what else? Well, about the mediator, Feuerstein said that it was important that we played a significant role in, let's say, guiding students towards learning about the way they learn and contents. And there is something else. He says that the mediator is a significant party because he is also transmitting culture. And that it is important for us to know about our origins, right? And to know why we take different insights that are, let's say, not the same if you compare, right, the way some other people may interpret as the same situation in another point of the planet, right? For example, thinking about, let's say, greetings, right? Greetings are not going to be the same in our culture if you compare it with, let's say, Japanese or Chinese, the way they interact. And in fact, you can see that when you see teachers, they are much more standoffish towards the children, the pupils, when you see them, and you believe, what is it wrong with these teachers that they don't smile or they don't interact more vividly with the students? But in fact, that's the way interaction is conducted in those cultures, right? The teachers are not so near the students, right, as we are. Why? It has to do with culture, right? It has to do with the way we are. And the fact that interaction and the way we learn, right, is going to be different. Perhaps even affecting the activities, right? Now, what about, can you mention when we are learning and when we are teaching, what is going on. I mean, what are the elements that are present in this, let's say, process? Imagine the classroom under the social interactionism. If you have to think of, let's say, a diagram, what would you place there? What elements? Yes? What do you think?
Well, obviously the teacher and the students are going to be part. Then you have the topic or the subject.
And Alviro, do you think that it's always a content, a topic, or a subject? Could it be, can you think of it in a different way? Because that's one way of calling it.
I mean, not always. Let me think about it. Not necessarily, because you may be teaching them about something that's not related to the curricula. And in that case, it wouldn't be part of a subject, for example.
It could be what?
I don't know, about their body, about ESI, for example. I don't know, but ESI is now part of the curricula. I think, I'm not sure.
Imagine if you are, if you want their reading comprehension to be better, what are you going to teach them?
Well, maybe, I don't know, vocabulary, or how to approach a text, what to do.
What is that?
That would be grammar.
How to approach a text. Is it vocabulary or grammar? It is not.
No, it is how to learn.
It could be a skill.
Yes.
Right? So it's not just that we have to think about contents or language structures or vocabulary. We can think about skills. Do you remember at the beginning of the year that we talked about language, right? We mentioned structures, and we also mentioned what? Skills. So this is how we can relate, right, this mediation process to what we actually do in the classroom. Now, try to regard language in a way that goes beyond that of grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation. That would be the hardcore. Do you remember? I think it was the first units or the first topics that we dealt with, right? And that's why, I mean, we can even think of skills as we have just worked out, and we can even think of tasks. I can think of a task as an action that I want the students to take, because perhaps in a as a long-term goal, I've got another, let's say, idea in mind. I want the students to be more critical towards and reflective towards their own learning, and I want to develop organizational skills, right? Or I want to boost social interaction among my students, so I set a task that will enhance and strengthen this. Do you see? So it's not just a matter of content. Be careful with that, right? Let's not just think about language learning as only acquiring knowledge that is related to vocabulary and grammar or pronunciation. Think outside the box, right? And that is one of the main concerns of social interactionism, that we come to, let's say, understand that learning is more than content or a unit or the curriculum. Now, in fact, when we say the curriculum, it's better to say syllabus, because when we think of the curriculum, remember that we are embracing several aspects, and that of goal setting and, let's say, cognitive skills are, let's say, contained in a curriculum, right? Not just contents. Okay. Now, my idea is, because I'm going to finish the recording for today's session, and then we are going to talk about the groups. It's not necessary for us to record that part, okay? So that you don't have such a long clip on YouTube to watch. The idea is this: I want you to think about two things from these two aspects, or 2 points from this chapter. And one of them is, I want you to think of, let's say, mediation and how you understand mediation. You can think of a picture, you can think of an example, or you can even, let's say, explain it thoroughly together with your partner. What is mediation? According to all the information you have collected, but perhaps it's not just in this chapter where the concept is, it's, let's say, analyzed into deep, but perhaps trying to incorporate what you have learned about mediation before. And I would like to hear or to see, all right, some kind of, not presentation, but development of what mediation is. That is one of the points. And then I would like you to go over page 44 again. And I want you to think about the concepts that are developed, especially on that page, right? And try to see if you can connect, right, these concepts with another author that we have discussed and we have read in Seminario de la Práctica Docente 1. I'm sure that if you read the concepts again, you will get what I'm referring to, right? But I want you to work with your partner, or if you are working on your own, trying to open your mind and not just, let's say, set your mind on this chapter, but try to think about and recap other, let's say, ideas that we have been discussing. Then I didn't worry about uploading chapter 3, all right? Because somebody uploaded the book, right? I think that Silvina Garcia has already uploaded it onto the didactics, let's say, classroom that you have, and I think she has a complete version of the book. So that's why I didn't make any kind of a scanning or whatsoever on PDF using the app I have on the phone, but because I counted on you having this. Now we will be discussing unit chapter 3 next week. Okay, so the task or the activity that I would like you to do is to think about these two aspects for next Wednesday. It's not going to be a presentation, it's just a conversation. Okay, you don't have to prepare any material, you just have to try to think and connect ideas. All right, with this, let's say, with the classmate that is working with you or on your own. All right, now I'm going to stop the recording because now we're going to talk about organizational issues that have to do with, let's say, the groups. Okay, I want to check that everything, all the information I have here is right. Well, let me stop.